Welcome back on Spillover. Y'all, the moment Lil Durk's legal team found out, they went completely silent. Not a press statement, not a leaked denial, not a single public word. And in this industry, silence from a high-powered attorney's office is not neutrality. Silence is a strategy. Because when 50 Cent, one of the most calculated, financially aggressive figures in hip-hop history, allegedly starts backing the family of King Von in a civil lawsuit targeting Durk's camp, the entire dynamic of this federal saga shifts in a direction nobody publicly mapped out. You need to understand what's actually happening here, because what's being reported on the surface is only a fraction of the story. Think about it. If this is just a lawsuit, why are Durk's lawyers reportedly meeting behind closed doors? Why has 50 Cent gone from social media trolling to allegedly writing checks? And why does Von's family suddenly have a level of legal momentum that didn't exist 6 months ago? This is not just rap beef. This is 50 Cent using the one weapon that has always been his most dangerous: money, leverage, and the willingness to let the legal system do what diss tracks never could. He did it to Diddy, he did it to his own former associates, and now allegedly, he has turned that same calculated machine toward the OTF camp at the exact moment when Lil Durk is already drowning in federal charges. The timing is not coincidental. The timing is surgical. Stay locked in, because by the time you finish watching this, you're going to question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, alliances, and what really happens when the cameras turn off and the lawyers walk in. To understand how 50 Cent allegedly ended up in the orbit of King Von's family lawsuit, you have to go back to October 2024, the month that rewrote the entire story of Lil Durk's legacy. On October 24, 2024, federal authorities arrested Durk on charges of murder for hire, conspiracy, and related counts. The indictment alleged that Durk, along with OTF Diddy, OTF Vonnie, and 072 Boogie, had organized a coordinated plot to kill Quando Rondo, the man whose crew was on the scene the night King Von was shot and killed in Atlanta on November 6, 2020. The feds were not dealing in rumors. They had wire intercepts, financial records, flight manifests, and reportedly, cooperating witnesses from inside the OTF circle itself. The entire architecture of Durk's public persona as a loyal, grieving best friend was suddenly being tested in a federal courtroom, and the industry watched in stunned silence. But here is where it gets interesting. While the criminal case was consuming every headline, a separate legal battle had been quietly building in the civil courts. In October 2024, the mother of FBG Duck, Chicago rapper Carlton Weekly, who was murdered in August 2020, filed a wrongful death lawsuit naming Lil Durk, King Von's estate, their record labels, and associated parties as defendants. The suit alleged that Duck's death was the direct result of ongoing gang-affiliated violence that these artists allegedly promoted, funded, and escalated through their music and public platforms. The case sent shockwaves through the legal teams of every named party, and sources close to the matter say that Von's family, already reeling from 4 years of grief, was now facing the possibility that Von's estate could be stripped to satisfy a civil judgment. And then the number came out: $12.5 million. That is the figure associated with a lawsuit that was ultimately dismissed in early 2025, a significant legal victory for Durk, reported by all hip-hop and confirmed by multiple outlets. But that victory did not erase what it revealed. The lawsuit, though dismissed, had exposed the paper trail. It had forced Durk's legal team to disclose financial structures, corporate entities, and estate arrangements that are now allegedly being used as reference points in both the ongoing federal criminal case and, reportedly, a new civil action being structured around Von's wrongful death. And this is where 50 Cent's alleged involvement becomes the most explosive detail in a story already full of them. According to sources who have spoken on condition of anonymity to entertainment and legal reporters tracking this case, 50 Cent has been in communication with individuals connected to King Von's family and their legal representatives since late 2024. The nature of those communications, whether advisory, financial, or purely strategic, has not been confirmed. But those same sources allege that 50 Cent, who has a documented history of funding and backing legal actions against industry adversaries, began expressing interest in the civil liability angle surrounding Von's death almost immediately after Durk's federal indictment dropped. Think about what that means. 50 Cent did not wait for a conviction. He allegedly moved while Durk was still fighting to make bail, allegedly identifying the civil lawsuit route as the cleanest path to permanent financial and reputational damage. That is not impulsive. That is the behavior of someone who has been watching and waiting. Mini-hook. Sources allegedly close to Vaughn's mother Tasha Bennett say she received a phone call in November 2024 that left her unable to speak publicly for weeks, and the caller reportedly was not from her legal team. 50 Cent's pattern here is not hard to trace if you've been paying attention. During the federal investigation into Sean Diddy Combs, 50 Cent was one of the most vocal public voices, consistently amplifying allegations before charges were formally filed. He used Instagram, interviews, and his media platform, G-Unity Foundation Media Ventures and Stars Productions, to keep the story alive, to frame public opinion, and according to critics, to ensure that Diddy's name remained synonymous with scandal during the exact window when civil lawsuits were being assembled. The result? Multiple civil plaintiffs came forward in a climate that 50 Cent had, at least in part, helped manufacture. He did not file the cases himself. He allegedly created the conditions under which filing became easy, visible, and collectively powerful. Now ask yourself, is he doing the same thing with Durk? Because the social media behavior patterns are almost identical. Stay right here because it gets worse. In February 2025, the Chicago Sun-Times reported that a new wrongful death lawsuit had been filed, this time directly implicating the murder-for-hire conspiracy. The suit, connected to the Quando Rondo targeting, alleged that the coordinated plot orchestrated by Durk's camp had created a climate of retaliatory violence that cost a life, and the plaintiffs were seeking damages not just from individuals but from corporate structures attached to OTF's business operations. Durk's attorney Drew Findling, one of the most respected criminal defense lawyers in Atlanta, has been aggressively fighting on the criminal side. But civil cases move on their own timeline. They are not bound by the same evidentiary rules. And if 50 Cent is allegedly financing legal resources, discovery costs, or expert witnesses for the civil plaintiffs' team, Findling's criminal defense strategy may be facing a second front he did not fully anticipate. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. When Lil Durk's legal team filed motions to dismiss the federal murder-for-hire charges in early 2025, citing prosecutorial misconduct and alleging that death threats against the judge and prosecutor had gone unreported by the government, as NBC Chicago confirmed, they were making a calculated gamble. The argument was sophisticated, that the integrity of the entire prosecution had been compromised, that the government had sat on information that could exonerate their client, and that the case should be tossed before it ever reached a jury. Findling is brilliant. That motion was a work of legal architecture. But what happened next allegedly threw a wrench into the entire defense timeline in a way that nobody in Durk's camp was prepared for. Reportedly, within weeks of that dismissal motion being filed, the civil legal team allegedly connected to Vaughn's family's interests filed a parallel motion in civil court, one that, according to legal observers, appeared to mirror the federal case's financial evidence in striking detail. The timing, sources say, was not coincidental. The information allegedly reflected in the civil motion, specific dollar amounts, wire transfer dates, names of intermediate parties, was not publicly available from the federal indictment alone. Which means, allegedly, that someone on the civil side had access to information that went beyond what was publicly filed. And if 50 Cent is indeed the financial engine behind the civil effort, the question becomes, how deep does his intelligence network go inside this case? Now here is the twist. 50 Cent has not been publicly connected to King Vaughn's estate or Tasha Bennett in any confirmed legal filing as of the time of this reporting. His alleged involvement exists entirely in the realm of sources, industry whispers, and behavioral patterns. But consider this, in September 2024, 1 month before Durk's arrest, 50 Cent gave a widely circulated interview in which he stated, on the record, that he had warned Lil Durk about the loyalty of people in his circle. Not once. Multiple times. He said it calmly, with the cadence of a man who already knew how the story ended. I told him. I sat with him. I told him to watch them, 50 Cent allegedly said, according to a transcript reported by Hip Hop DX. That is not the language of someone hearing bad news for the first time. That is the language of a man positioning himself for a role in the aftermath. Mini-hook, an industry insider, allegedly told a rap media outlet that 50 Cent had a private conversation with someone connected to Vaughn's family as far back as the summer of 2024, months before the indictment, and that the conversation was not social. Wallow 267 adds another layer to this narrative that is almost too painful to analyze without acknowledging the human weight of it. Wallow, who appeared on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe and broke down publicly, visibly crying, while discussing Lil Durk and King Von, made a statement that has been largely overshadowed by its emotional delivery. He did not just say let it go. He said, reportedly, that he had spoken to people close to Durk who confirmed that the revenge mission was not a rumor. It was real. It was planned. It was ongoing. And Wallow was terrified, not because he didn't understand the logic, but because he understood the consequence. What has gone almost completely unreported is that Wallow 267 and 50 Cent had been in contact around the same period. Not about Durk. Ostensibly about business. But sources allege that the topic of Durk's federal exposure came up, and that 50 Cent expressed more than passing interest in what Wallow knew about the emotional state of Von's family. And here is what they allegedly did not want you to find out. The all-hip-hop exclusive that broke in late 2024 reported that federal prosecutors alleged Lil Durk had placed a $1 million bounty on Quando Rondo's head. $1 million. That number, if proven, does not just establish criminal intent. In a civil wrongful death context, it establishes a financial capacity for deliberate, premeditated harm. Civil attorneys representing plaintiffs in wrongful death suits are trained to find exactly that kind of evidence. Because once you can show financial capacity paired with alleged intent, the damages calculation changes completely. You are no longer talking about compensatory damages. You are potentially entering the territory of punitive damages. And punitive damages, unlike compensatory, are designed specifically to punish. They can be multiples of the underlying harm. If 50 Cent is allegedly backing the civil plaintiffs, even indirectly, even through a network of intermediaries who provide legal research funding or expert witness compensation, then he is not just trolling Durk on Instagram. He is potentially helping build the financial architecture of a lawsuit that could outlast the criminal case, survive an acquittal, and attach itself permanently to every royalty stream, every publishing deal, every business entity connected to OTF's operations. O.J. Simpson was acquitted in criminal court. He lost $33 million in civil court. Durk's team knows this. And reportedly, the silence from Findling's office in response to the civil developments has been noted internally as a sign that the defense is recalibrating in real time. Minihook, a source allegedly close to Durk's business management team, said privately that the civil lawsuit angle was the one they didn't budget for, and that the financial strain of mounting two simultaneous legal defenses is already being felt. The question that nobody in OTF's orbit wants to answer publicly is this: if the criminal case somehow gets dismissed, if Findling wins on the prosecutorial misconduct argument, does the civil exposure disappear with it? The answer legally is no. And that is the wall that Durk's team is allegedly facing in private conversations that have not been reported anywhere. Criminal acquittals do not bar civil actions. They do not retroactively erase financial discovery. And they absolutely do not stop a well-funded plaintiff's team from continuing to depose witnesses, request financial documents, and build toward a civil trial that could begin as early as 2026. If 50 Cent is indeed the financial force behind that effort, or even a partial contributor, then Durk is not fighting one case. He is fighting a war on two fronts, and the second front has no constitutional speedy trial protections. Taysha Bennett, King Von's mother, has been present at several public events in the past year where the question of justice for her son has come up. She has been careful. She has been dignified. But sources close to the family say that she is not passive, and that the people around her have been actively consulting with attorneys about what civil remedies look like in the context of a federal criminal case. Whether 50 Cent is in that circle of consultation, directly or through proxies, has not been confirmed publicly. But the behavioral evidence is stacking up in a way that feels less like coincidence and more like coordination. 50 Cent posted a pointed Instagram message in late 2024 that referenced the truth coming out in court, without naming Durk specifically. He has done this before. With Diddy. With former G-Unit members. He plants language. He lets the audience connect the dots. And the audience always does. Domani Harris, T.I.'s other son, released his own diss track during the King Harris-50 Cent beef and titled it Ms. Jackson, directly invoking 50 Cent's late mother and Daphne Joy's allegations simultaneously. The internet noticed. But what the internet mostly missed is that 50 Cent's response to the Harris family beef was markedly measured compared to how he handles threats from people he considers genuinely dangerous. He posted. He dissed in the Power, Origins theme. He warned. And then he went quiet on that front. Sources allegedly say it is because his attention, and allegedly his financial resources, had already been redirected towards something with longer legs and higher stakes than a rap beef. Something in a courtroom. Something with Durk's name on it. Minihook, an attorney not connected to either side, allegedly told a legal podcast that the structure of the civil complaints being filed around this case showed the fingerprints of a very sophisticated funder, someone who understood how to use parallel litigation as a pressure multiplier. The OTF fallout from the federal indictment has been catastrophic on an organizational level. OTF Didi and OTF Vani are named co-conspirators. 072 Boogie is in federal custody. The All Hip Hop reporting on cooperating witnesses suggests that at least one person inside the OTF structure wore a wire, not for weeks, but reportedly for years. Years. Which means that conversations about King Von's death, about Quando Rondo, about the alleged bounty, about logistics and finances, all of it may have been recorded and is sitting in a federal evidence locker right now. And if civil attorneys have access to even a portion of that evidence through the discovery process, through depositions of witnesses who have already flipped, the civil case becomes almost self-prosecuting. You do not need 50 Cent to win that case. You just need him to fund the discovery long enough for the evidence to speak for itself. That is the alleged calculation. That is why Durk's lawyers are reportedly responding privately, in back-channel meetings with individuals connected to the civil plaintiff's legal team, attempting to understand the scope of what is coming, attempting to assess whether a settlement conversation is even possible before a civil trial date is set. A settlement would be private. It would be financially significant. And it would likely come with a non-disclosure clause that would prevent any public acknowledgement of what was paid, to whom, and why. But here is the thing about 50 Cent. He does not take settlements that disappear. Every legal action he has been associated with has either produced a public verdict or a public capitulation. He reportedly told associates during the Diddy situation, "I don't want a check. I want a record." Whether he said that about Durk specifically is unconfirmed. But the approach, the patience, the financial backing, the willingness to let the courts do the heavy lifting, is identical. Minihook, a music industry attorney who has worked with multiple Chicago-based artists, allegedly told a colleague that 50 Cent's alleged involvement in this civil case, if confirmed, would represent the most sophisticated use of litigation as leverage in hip-hop history. What makes this entire situation almost Shakespearean in its construction is the irony at its center. Lil Durk built his entire brand on loyalty. He built it on Von. Every song, every interview, every tattoo was an extension of a grief narrative that made him one of the most emotionally resonant figures in modern rap. And now, allegedly, the very death that defined him, the loss of King Von, is being used as the legal mechanism through which his empire could be dismantled. Not by a federal prosecutor. Not by Quando Rondo's attorneys. Allegedly partly by 50 Cent, who was never in Durk's circle, never in his beef, never in his city, but who watched everything from the outside, processed it with the cold analytical precision of a man who turned his own near-death experience into a multi-hundred-million-dollar media empire, and then allegedly decided that the time to move was exactly now. Here is what you need to sit with after this video ends. The criminal case against Lil Durk could be dismissed tomorrow, and this story would not be over. Because the civil case does not need a criminal conviction to move forward. It needs evidence. It needs resources. And it allegedly has both. The question that no one can answer right now is whether 50 Cent's alleged involvement will ever be confirmed in a public legal filing, or whether it will remain exactly where it is most powerful, unconfirmed, alleged, and psychologically devastating to a defense team that cannot officially respond to a threat that officially does not exist. The second question is darker. King Von's family has waited more than 4 years for something that looks and feels like accountability. If civil courts deliver that where criminal courts could not, does the method matter? And the third question, the one that should keep everyone watching, is what happens if Durk walks on the criminal charges and then faces a civil trial where the evidentiary standard is lower, The financial discovery is deeper, and the plaintiff's legal team is allegedly funded by one of the most strategically intelligent men in the history of this industry. You have been watching this play out in real time. You are not a passive viewer of this story. You are one of the only people paying close enough attention to see the whole board. That is why your like on this video matters. It does not just tell the algorithm to push this to more people. It tells the industry that the community is watching, that the details matter, that accountability, wherever it comes from, does not disappear just because someone has a good lawyer. Drop a comment below and tell me this. Do you think 50 Cent is doing this for Vaughn, or is he doing this for himself? And does the difference even matter if the result is the same? Because in the end, the most dangerous player in this game was never the one with the loudest voice. It was always the one who moved in silence.